Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the wall came tumbling down.
Hello again. It's time once again for a Bible story time. Tonight we're going to continue on with the story of Abraham. Remember how he had been promised by God that a son would be born to him? And the end of our last story, we read that Isaac was born to Abraham and Sarah. This story is called, Where is the Lamb? Again, God spoke to Abraham, but it was different this time. Abraham, God called. Yes, Lord, I am here, Abraham replied. Then God said a very strange thing. I want you to go with your son, Isaac, your only son whom you love. Go to the land of Moriah, and on one of the mountains I will show you. I want you to sacrifice him as a burnt offering. Abraham could not understand this. He had waited so long for this child, and God had given him Isaac just as he had promised. And now the Lord was going to ask him to be sacrificed. How was God going to make from Abraham's son the family, the tribe, the nation he had promised? If Isaac was to be offered as a sacrifice to God, how was this going to be? What a fine, strong lad he was. And now he was to die. Abraham could not understand, but he believed God and he trusted in God. But even as Abraham had always obeyed, so he did now. Early the next morning, he arose and prepared for the journey. It would take them 3 days. He saddled his donkey and gathered all that they would need. He cut the wood for the burnt offering and took some food and some water. With 2 servants, Isaac and Abraham set off. On the 3rd day of the journey, Abraham looked up and saw the place where he had to go. He stopped and said to his 2 servants, "You stay here with the donkey. My boy and I are going up to the mountain to the place where we have to worship. Then we will come back to you again." Abraham put the wood on his son's shoulder, and carrying the knife and the fire himself, he and the boy began to climb the mountain. As they were going, Isaac asked, "My father?" "Yes, my son," replied Abraham. "We have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" "God will provide a lamb for himself," Abraham said. At last the boy and the father reached the place of sacrifice, and Abraham slowly gathered stones with his son to build the altar. When it was built, he explained to Isaac what the Lord had told him to do. Abraham arranged the wood in place, after which Isaac was laid on the altar and was bound there with cords. Then Abraham went to pick up the knife to slay his son. A voice from heaven rang out, "Abraham, Abraham." Abraham was startled. "I am here, Lord, I'm here." "Do not lay your hand on the lad. Do nothing to hurt him. For I know that you have reverence to your God, since you have not kept even your son, your only son, from me." Abraham untied the cords that bound his son, and as he looked, then behind him a ram was caught in a thicket of thorns. So Abraham took the ram, and offered it up as a burnt offering to God instead of his son Isaac. Abraham called the mountain, "The Lord will provide," because the Lord did provide a sacrifice for himself. Once more, God reminded Abraham of his promises and blessed him there. So Abraham and Isaac went back to the men, and they returned home, where Abraham taught Isaac all that he knew. He trained his son to love God and to live to please him in every way. Would you like to have a look at the pictures? Here's the first one. You see Abraham and Isaac with the donkey and all the woods on the back of the donkey, and they're going up. You can see the mountain in the distance. And then the second picture, you can see God has provided himself a sacrifice. And Abraham and Isaac are looking up and thanking God for all that he has done for them. What a wonderful story that is. How hard it would have been for Abraham to have obeyed God at that time, but he did. You know, there are things that God asks us to do that are very clear, but perhaps we don't understand why. We have to be like Abraham and do just what God says, because he has a plan, and God loves us very, very much. Do you know, while he saved Isaac, Abraham's son, he allowed his own son, Jesus, to die for us. Jesus was the sacrificial lamb that died for the sins of the world. And this story is a picture of that sacrifice, a foreshadowing of that sacrifice. Jesus is the real Son, and he died so that we can have life. Well, our story time is ended once again. Thank you for being with me today. I look forward to seeing you next time. Good night.